When my lawyer walked into that boardroom, I knew the tables had finally turned. My son and his wife looked confident, too confident, but they had no idea the real power in that room was sitting right next to me. My name is Helen Carter, and I built my life from nothing. 25 years ago, my husband Richard and I started a small furniture company out of our garage. We called it Carter and Oak Designs, his last name, my favorite tree. We poured our hearts, sweat, and every dollar into it. When he died suddenly of a heart attack, I nearly shut it all down. But the company was our legacy, our life's work. So I stayed. I ran the operations, designed furniture, dealt with suppliers, and made sure every employee felt like family. By the time my son Ethan turned 30, Carter and Oak was thriving, high-end clients, magazine features, even contracts with hotel chains. I dreamed of one day passing it down to him, but I never thought he'd take it from me. The morning it happened, I woke up early as always. I still made my own coffee, black with a hint of cinnamon, the way Richard liked it. I glanced at the framed photo of him on my kitchen counter and whispered, "You'd be proud of what we built, Rich. It's all still here." But something in my chest felt off that day. The air felt heavy, like a storm that hadn't arrived yet. When I reached the office, my assistant Lily looked nervous. She kept glancing toward the boardroom. "They're waiting for you, Mrs. Carter," she said softly. "Who's they?" I asked, setting my purse down. "Mr. Ethan and Vanessa," I frowned. Ethan almost never came to early meetings. When I entered, I found them sitting at the long mahogany table, Ethan in a tailored navy suit, Vanessa flipping through a folder of documents. They looked different, polished, prepared. "Morning, Mom," Ethan said with that polite tone people use when they're about to say something cruel. "What's going on?" I asked. Vanessa looked up first. "We're restructuring the company, Helen. You've done amazing work over the years, but it's time to modernize." "Modernize?" I repeated. "Vanessa, this isn't just a business. It's family. It's—" "Exactly," she interrupted, smiling coldly. "And the family should know when it's time to let the next generation lead." She slid a stack of papers toward me. "Transfer agreements, power of attorney, executive authority reassignment." My hands trembled. "What is this?" Ethan sighed. "Mom, you've been working too hard." "You need rest. We'll take it from here." "Take it?" I whispered. "Ethan, this is my company," he leaned back. "Not for long. You signed over partial control last year, remember? The anniversary investment contract?" My heart dropped. That document, the one Ethan said was just a routine shareholder update. I'd trusted him completely. That's when I noticed the fine print. Vanessa's name beside his. She wasn't just part of my son's life anymore. She was part of my company. "You forged this," I said quietly. "No, Mom," Vanessa replied sweetly. "You signed it." It felt like the air left my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I wanted to scream. But all I managed was a whisper. "How could you do this, Ethan?" "To your own mother?" He avoided my gaze. "It's for your own good. You deserve to relax. Relax." That word would haunt me for years. I walked out of that office numb, holding the resignation letter they'd prepared for me. They'd even thought of that, a neat little statement that said I was retiring voluntarily to spend more time with family. Family. The irony was almost poetic. For months after that, I drifted. My friends called. My employees wrote letters, but I couldn't face any of them. I felt humiliated, betrayed, erased. One afternoon, as I was cleaning out old boxes in my garage, I found Richard's leather portfolio, the one he used when we first started the company. Inside, buried under blueprints and invoices, was a folder labeled Founders' Rights Agreement. I froze. My husband had drawn up an early partnership document, and in it, a clause I'd never noticed before. No founding members' controlling interest may be permanently transferred or revoked without mutual consent or proven incapacity. Mutual consent. I had never consented, and I was far from incapacitated, for the first time in a long time. I smiled. The next morning I called a law firm downtown. A young lawyer named Daniel Reed agreed to meet me. He looked barely 30, but spoke with the kind of quiet authority that made people listen. After I explained everything, he leaned forward and said, Mrs. Carter, they took advantage of you. But if that original founder's clause is valid, you might still own controlling rights. My heart raced. You mean I could take it back? He nodded. If you're willing to fight, yes, fight. The word sounded foreign in my mouth but powerful. Then let's fight. For the next 6 months, Daniel and I worked quietly. We reviewed every document, every signature, every shady transaction Vanessa had processed. We built a case strong enough to shake their perfect little world. And then, one bright Monday morning, Daniel looked at me across his desk and said, "It's time. Mrs. Carter, we're filing." That's when I felt something I hadn't in years. Purpose. Not revenge, not hate, just the deep satisfaction of finally standing up for myself. When my lawyer walked into that boardroom, I knew the tables had finally turned. They didn't know it yet. But the woman they'd called a burden was about to become their boss. People think revenge is loud, shouting, fighting, slamming doors. But the smartest revenge? It's quiet, invisible. It moves one piece at a time until the whole board belongs to you. 6 months had passed since I last set foot in the Carter & Oak building. The same building I helped design. The same one where my name still gleamed faintly on the marble plaque near the entrance. Founded by Richard and Helen Carter. When I walked through those glass doors again, no one recognized me. I wore my hair shorter now, streaks of silver replaced by a calm gray. I dressed not like a founder, but like a consultant, crisp white blouse, dark suit, no smile. I had a new name too. Mrs. H. Dawson, investor relations consultant. Daniel, my lawyer, had helped me set up a shell investment firm, small but convincing. Enough to make it look like I represented new investors interested in acquiring a stake in Carter & Oak. It was poetic, really. They'd stolen the company from me under legal terms. Now I was taking it back the same way. When I entered the boardroom, Ethan was sitting at the head of the table, scrolling through his phone. He didn't even look up when he said, "You must be the consultant from Dawson Holdings. Vanessa will brief you." Vanessa stood near the whiteboard. All confidence in heels, the perfect CEO's wife. She smiled. Professional, polite, utterly unaware. "Mrs. Dawson," she said, extending her hand. "Pleasure to meet you." "Likewise," I replied evenly. "I've heard wonderful things about Carter & Oak." The words tasted like irony. For the next hour, I listened as Vanessa explained the company's current struggles, declining sales, supplier delays, employee turnover. Everything Richard and I had once prevented through loyalty and trust was now falling apart under their watch. "We're trying to modernize the brand," she said. "New markets, new designs, but we need fresh capital." "And fresh management?" I asked softly. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," I smiled. Just thinking aloud. When the meeting ended, Ethan offered a quick handshake. "We'll be in touch, Mrs. Dawson. Thank you for your time." As I walked out, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. For the first time, I didn't see a broken widow or a betrayed mother. I saw a strategist. This was no longer about what they took. It was about what I was about to build back. Over the next few weeks, I quietly worked behind the scenes. Through Daniel's help, my firm bought up small shares from minor stakeholders, silent investors who didn't even realize they were selling to me. Piece by piece, the company that was stolen from me began returning home. At night, I'd sit in my apartment surrounded by files, contracts, and old photos of Richard. "You always said business was like chess," I whispered to his picture. "Well, I'm finally playing the long game." Then one day, fate handed me an unexpected advantage. Lily, my former assistant, the same girl who used to bring me coffee every morning, called out of the blue, "Mrs. Carter? Mrs. Dawson?" "It's all right, Lily," I said. "You can still call me Helen." Her voice trembled. "They're planning to sell off the original Carter & Oak workshop, the one you built with your husband. Vanessa says it's outdated, but we all know it's because she wants quick money for her new design line." I gripped the phone tighter. "When?" "Tomorrow. Private meeting at 10 a.m. with potential buyers." I smiled slowly. "Thank you, Lily. Leave the rest to me." The next morning, I arrived early. Ethan and Vanessa didn't notice me at first as they entertained 2 real estate agents, showing off the property like proud owners. "The foundation is old," one of them said. "But the land value alone is worth more than its history," Vanessa interrupted. That was my cue. "History," I said softly, stepping forward, "isn't something you sell. It's something you protect." They turned, and for a second, Ethan's expression flickered. Something in my tone must have sounded familiar. "Mrs. Dawson," Vanessa said quickly, regaining her composure. "You're early." "I prefer to see things before they're ruined," I replied. I looked around the workshop. The smell of cedar still lingered, the same scent Richard used to come home with. For a moment I forgot where I was. I could almost hear his voice again. "Don't ever let them take what we built, Helen." I straightened my posture. "Not this time." When the buyers left, I turned to Vanessa. "I'll advise my firm not to invest if you sell this workshop." Her jaw tightened. "Excuse me?" "A company that abandons its roots loses its soul," I said. "Investors notice that. We'd rather work with stability, not desperation." For a moment, her mask cracked. "You don't know anything about this company," I smiled. "You'd be surprised." Then I walked out, leaving her fuming behind me. That night, Daniel called. "You rattled them," he said with a grin in his voice. "They've postponed the sale. And Mrs. Carter, your ownership stake is now 47%. Just 4% more and you regain full control." My breath caught. "We're that close?" "Closer than they think," he replied. I looked out the window at the city lights. Each glowing window reminded me of the workers who once called me Mrs. Carter, the kind boss. They didn't know it yet, but I was coming back, not as their employer, but as their protector. Revenge doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, and right now, my whisper was turning into a storm. They thought I was just another consultant. Little did they know, the woman they betrayed was standing right under their noses, waiting for the perfect moment to reclaim everything. The office smelled faintly of coffee and fear, though they didn't know it yet. Vanessa had been pacing all morning, checking her phone, muttering to herself. Ethan sat stiffly at the head of the table, his tie crooked, his usual arrogance slowly melting into unease. I entered the room, calm, poised, clipboard in hand. "Good morning," I said. "Let's review the projected sales figures for the next quarter." Vanessa froze mid-step. Her eyes flicked to me, then to Ethan, then back to me. Something in her gut told her she'd seen that posture somewhere before. That quiet confidence, the way I scanned the documents with purpose. "Mrs. Dawson," she said cautiously. "Yes," I replied softly. "I believe we're going to need some major adjustments." Ethan shifted in his seat. His forehead creased. There was tension there I hadn't seen before. Over the next hour, I reviewed numbers, budgets, and old vendor contracts. I pointed out inefficiencies, outdated supplier agreements, and costly mistakes Vanessa had made in her haste to modernize. Each correction I made was like a small stone dropped in a pond, the ripples of panic slowly spreading across the table. At one point, Vanessa slammed her pen down. "How do you know all of this?" she asked, voice tight. I smiled faintly, keeping my tone polite. "I've been studying your operations closely." That's all. But they both knew it wasn't just studying. Something in my delivery, my knowledge of every corner of the company, made them uneasy. "I mean, I know the basics," I added, "but some decisions you've made, they could cost the company millions." That evening, I returned to my small apartment. Lily had left me a note on my desk. "Vanessa is asking questions about you. She wants to know how you know so much about Carter and Oak. Be careful." I chuckled softly. "Careful? Oh, Lily, we're just getting started." The following week, I upped the game. I scheduled private strategy meetings with minor investors, emphasizing the value of retaining the original founder's guidance. I dropped hints about the legal clause Richard had drafted, just enough to unsettle Vanessa without revealing too much. Then came the email, a meeting request from Vanessa, marked urgent. "Helen, I need to speak with you. Alone. ASAP." My pulse quickened. She was starting to feel the pressure. The meeting was in her office, sleek, high-end, perfectly decorated to project power. But beneath the surface, I could sense her anxiety. Mrs. Dawson, Vanessa began, her hands twisting around a pen. You seem very informed about things no one should know. I leaned casually against her desk. That's why you asked to meet me privately, correct? Her lips tightened. You don't know how dangerous this could be for you. I smiled faintly. Dangerous? Perhaps, but not for me, she exhaled sharply. You can't just walk in and take control. This company, this is our life. I tilted my head, my voice soft but firm. I built this company. I raised the employees. I worked with your husband when he was just a boy. And now, you think your marriage gives you ownership? Vanessa, power is earned, not inherited. Her eyes widened. She wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Later that week, I orchestrated another small move. A key vendor, someone Ethan and Vanessa had ignored, called to confirm they would only honor contracts if Helen Carter had oversight approval. Ethan stormed into my consultant office. Flustered. Mrs. Dawson, what did you do? He demanded. I met his gaze calmly. Just asked a few questions. It seems the vendors prefer stability over chaos. Strange, isn't it? Vanessa called me later that evening. Who are you, really? She screamed over the phone. I told you, I replied sweetly. I'm Mrs. Dawson, your consultant. Her scream echoed in my ears. I smiled quietly. The walls are closing in, Vanessa, and you didn't even see it coming. At home, I reflected on the months of careful planning. Each small move, invisible to them, was shifting power back into my hands. Every mistake they'd made was amplified by my knowledge and patience. Every anxious glance from Vanessa or Ethan made me stronger. This wasn't just revenge. It was justice. It was poetic, quiet, satisfying justice. Sometimes, the strongest storms are the ones that arrive without warning, I whispered to myself. And the storm was nearly ready. They thought they had beaten me. They thought their little plan was foolproof. But they didn't know. The real boss was still sitting in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to show herself. The morning of the board meeting. I arrived early, as always, dressed in a sharp gray suit, my hair neatly tied back. Daniel had prepared everything. Contracts, voting records, and the official evidence proving my full legal rights as founder. I carried a calm that masked the storm I felt inside. Today, Ethan and Vanessa were about to meet the real Helen Carter, the woman they had underestimated for years. Vanessa and Ethan entered the boardroom first, unaware of what was waiting. Morning, Vanessa said, her usual smirk in place. Mrs. Dawson, Ethan added, trying to sound professional but failing to hide a slight unease. I smiled faintly. Good morning. Mr. Carter. Mrs. Carter, I corrected subtly. Letting the weight of the words sink in, their eyes widened. Wait, what? Ethan whispered. I think you need a reminder, I said softly, sliding a thick folder across the table. Everything in here proves the original founding clause is still valid. And by law, I am the controlling owner of Carter and Oak Designs. Vanessa's face went pale. That's impossible, she stammered. Not impossible, I replied evenly. Just ignored for convenience. Ethan swallowed hard, shifting in his seat. Mom, you can't. I raised a finger, cutting him off. Ethan, I didn't want to do this. I tried patience. I tried quiet guidance. But when you and Vanessa decided to steal what wasn't yours, you left me no choice. Daniel stepped forward, handing over the remaining documents. Voting shares, legal ownership, and company authority all transferred back to Mrs. Carter. Effective immediately. Vanessa's hands shook as she glanced at Ethan. We were trying to modernize, she whispered. Modernize? I repeated, voice calm but firm. You mean, take what my husband and I built and turn it into a vanity project. Yes, I noticed. And yes, it failed spectacularly. The room was silent. Even the employees who had quietly followed me into the room earlier were holding their breath. You underestimated me, I continued, pacing slowly. You forgot that experience, wisdom and dedication are worth more than ambition and arrogance. And now, you're paying for it, Ethan's shoulders slumped. Mom, we didn't mean, I shook my head. No excuses. You rejected me when I needed you most. You humiliated me, stole from me, and dismissed everything I worked for. And yet, here I am, calm, collected, in control. Vanessa's eyes welled up with tears. Please. Helen, I just wanted to help. I stepped closer, my voice soft but edged with steel. Helping doesn't mean stealing, and love doesn't mean betrayal. Then I sat behind the CEO desk, my desk. From today, I am officially in charge. You'll both remain employees under my guidance. And yes, you will answer me. Ethan's jaw dropped. Vanessa's lips trembled. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same mother they cast aside was now their boss. Over the next few weeks, I quietly restored Carter & Oak to its former glory. I repaired supplier relationships, boosted employee morale, and reintroduced designs Richard and I had planned years ago. Every decision was deliberate. Every success a silent reminder to Ethan and Vanessa that I was the backbone of this company all along. Vanessa tried to regain favor, but the employees, loyal and wise, quickly realized who had truly been steering the ship. Ethan attempted to assert authority, but I countered calmly, using his own mistakes as teaching points. Slowly, they understood. They had lost control, and there was no path back to the power they thought they held. One quiet afternoon, Vanessa came to me, tears in her eyes. Helen, please, I didn't mean to hurt you. Can we start over? I looked at her. Her voice wavered, desperate. I could see the regret, the fear, the shame. For a moment, I thought about forgiveness. But then I remembered the years of silence, the cold Christmas mornings, the humiliation, the stolen company. Vanessa, I said softly, you're going to have to work very hard to earn even a shred of trust. That starts with respect and honesty. She nodded quickly, swallowing her sobs. Ethan stayed silent, staring at the floor, knowing he had been outplayed by the woman he had taken for granted. That evening, as I returned home, I stood on the balcony of my restored office apartment and looked at the city lights. A quiet smile touched my lips. Richard, I whispered to the night sky, we did it. We always knew this company belonged to the right hands. It wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about power. It was about justice, dignity, and the truth finally being recognized. From that day forward, Carter and Oak thrived. Employees respected leadership again. Vanessa and Ethan learned humility and the cost of underestimating a woman who refused to be broken. They called me a burden once. They thought they could erase me, but today they answer to me, and that is the sweetest victory of all. Sometimes life tests you not by taking things away, but by showing you what truly matters and what you can survive with dignity intact. Months had passed since I reclaimed Carter & Oak Designs. The company was thriving once again. Sales had doubled, employees were happier, and the designs Richard and I had dreamed of years ago were finally being recognized worldwide. But success wasn't the only thing I had gained. I had found something far more valuable: peace with my past, clarity about my choices, and respect from those who once betrayed me. Ethan and Vanessa now reported to me professionally. The awkward tension remained at first. Ethan avoided eye contact. Vanessa tried desperately to regain some favor. I let them adjust. I didn't need to humiliate them further. The company's revival and their own guilt were already doing that. One morning, Vanessa hesitantly approached me. Helen, I just wanted to say, I understand now. I acted selfishly. I hope you can forgive me someday. I looked into her eyes. There was sincerity, not the fake charm of before. Vanessa, I said calmly, forgiveness isn't automatic. But I believe in growth. If you truly change, I'll respect that. She nodded, tears brimming. It wasn't a full reconciliation yet, but it was a start. That afternoon, Ethan came to my office. Mom, I know I can't undo what I did, he said quietly. I see now how much I took for granted. I let him sit. Ethan, the lesson isn't just about the company, I said softly. It's about respect, honesty, and valuing people before power. Learn from this. Let it shape you, not break you. He swallowed hard and nodded. For the first time, I felt the weight of old pain lifting. I had been wronged, yes, but I had taken control of my life instead of letting bitterness consume me. That was victory of the deepest kind. Later that evening, I sat in my office overlooking the city. The sunset painted the sky golden orange, just like the afternoons Richard and I used to watch from our balcony. I closed my eyes and allowed myself a moment of gratitude. "We survived, Rich," I whispered. "We built something that lasted, and no one, not even our own family, could take that from us." I thought of Lily, my loyal assistant. She had stayed by my side quietly, supporting me without ever expecting recognition. "Thank you, Lily," I said when she popped her head in. "This wouldn't have been possible without you." Her smile was shy but proud. "You've always been the heart of this company, Mrs. Carter." I felt warmth in my chest. That was the truth I wanted to leave with everyone. Loyalty, dedication, and courage always matter. Weeks later, I held a company-wide meeting. The employees listened as I spoke about the future of Carter & Oak Designs, our values, and the legacy Richard and I had built. I didn't mention the betrayal, only lessons learned, vision for growth, and appreciation for the people who made the company what it was. When I finished, applause erupted. Not just because of authority, but because people knew I had earned it. "This isn't just my victory," I said, voice steady. "It's ours, together." At home that night, I sat with a cup of tea reflecting on the journey. From betrayal, humiliation, and near loss, to strategy, patience, and eventual triumph. Every step had been painful, yes, but necessary. Life can break you, I thought, but it can also show you how strong you really are. I picked up Richard's old leather portfolio, the first folder I had found that started this journey. "We did it, Richard," I whispered. "We survived, we reclaimed our legacy, and we became stronger than they ever expected." I smiled. The storm was over, and in its place, peace, strength, and the quiet satisfaction of justice. If you enjoyed Helen's journey, her fight, and the sweet taste of justice, don't forget to like this story and subscribe to our channel for more incredible grandma stories that inspire and empower.